Hey Planty People, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're wondering if the Ikea greenhouse cabinet, also known as the Milsbo, is actually worth it to keep and contain your really precious, more rare and uncommon and humidity-loving plants, here we are. I bought it so that you wouldn't have to. First of all, I want to say I'm sorry for the echo. We're in my living room / kitchen and it is really echoey in here and there's nothing I can do about it. So I bought the Milsbo so you didn't have to. Is it worth the hype? I just wanted to go through a few pros and cons with you guys and also let you guys know of my experience. If you're here for my tour of my cabinet, that's not going to be this video, it's going to be the next video, so stay tuned for that. And the best way to stay tuned for that type of stuff is to make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, and you can go ahead and turn on the bells so that way it gives you some sort of notification I've posted a video. So stay tuned for that video. So let's go ahead and go through the hype behind this cabinet. I have seen Tropical Seductions on Instagram, Harley G, Lucia from Lulu's Leaves, and Wild Fern. They all have these cabinets, and so I'm pretty sure me and you are one and the same, and we're pretty hyped about this cabinet, and we really want to secure one for ourselves, but Ikea has made it almost near impossible to get one because they're really popular. They're really in demand right now, and it's because it is such a really trendy fad. And is it worth it? So I went ahead and bought this guy. It cost a little over 200 bucks. And it came in 2 big boxes that you would have to assemble yourself. So let's go ahead and talk about a few of the cons. So I'm the type of person that if somebody comes up to me and they're like, I've got good news and bad news, what do you want to hear first? I want to hear the bad news first so that the good news can come at the end and like make the cons not seem so bad. A few of the cons would be how pricey this is. It is a little bit over $200, which if you go and look around on tons of other websites, you will find that that is actually one of the cheaper deals that you can find. Whenever I tried to get this guy, it was out of stock, and so of course I went to tons and tons of different websites to try and find anything remotely similar. I even went on Facebook Marketplace, I was on Craigslist. Everything that was even remotely similar to this guy was almost $1,000, if not $1,000. And plus it was really hard to find something that wasn't completely just wood, because I'm really on the fence as to whether wood would be good, because I would think that unless you sealed it a specific way, then the wood would mold and rot, and I don't really want to deal with that. So this is like all metal and plastic and glass, so safe there. So that was a big con, was trying to find the availability for this guy and the price. The availability for this guy was kind of difficult. It seemed like they did a lot of ghost restocks. I would sign up to be notified for whenever it was in stock, and sometimes I wouldn't get notified and I would just randomly go on the website and then they would be stocked. Also, they would be stocked in random areas, and the shipping was really, really pricey. The shipping was gonna be like $50, but it is really heavy, so it makes sense. So other than the cost and the availability, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of this cabinet. So first of all, it is so difficult to get this guy balanced. Like, I have my doors just a little bit teetered off balance. I've tried everything to fix that, and I just can't seem to get it to even out. So I have my door where it just, at the bottom, it won't shut completely. Like, the magnet isn't powerful enough to get that to shut completely. So I have a little bit of air that can slip in and out. I do think that there would be an easy fix to that, would be to get a stronger magnet to put against the door so it will suction better to the bottom of the cabinet where the door shuts. Another con is the fact that around the doors there is a lot of gaps, so it isn't actually completely sealed. So in order to fix something like that, you then have to make another purchase, if you want to, that is. For me, it was a want because I really want this to be almost terrarium-like. I want it to hold as much humidity as possible because I have a lot of humidity-loving plants in here. So in order to fix that, you then go and buy some weather stripping and stick it around the sides and around the bottom. From afar, you can't really see the clear weather stripping, so for aesthetics, as long as you don't get too up close and personal, you can't really tell. But whenever you really get in there, you can see the weather stripping. And whether that bothers you or not, that's a personal opinion. It doesn't really bother me because it helps my plants and I still think it looks really good. So for me, a second con, which I have just kind of figured out recently, is I only have one glass shelf in mine, so there's 2 different levels. I have a small humidifier up on the top shelf, which I only run like once a day, and it only runs for 4 hours. So I don't want to promote too much humidity where my plants might possibly want to mold, because I don't have any fans in here at the moment because I don't really think that I need them. But later on down the road, that might be a different story. So with the one shelf that I have in this guy, I have noticed that whenever I put my, I think it's a hydrometer. I think that's probably not the right word for the humidity thermometer that I have in my cabinet. I only have one, so I kind of put it wherever it is most needed. So I had it up on the top shelf so I could see the humidity daily. Whenever I didn't have the humidifier running, it was sitting at about 65 to high 70s. It was doing really, really well. And whenever I had my humidifier running for those few hours, it would go in the 80s and possibly in the 90s, which is really good for some of my plants. So a few days ago, I decided that I wanted to see what the humidity is like on the bottom shelf where the humidifier isn't. So the results were a little bit more dramatic than I was expecting. When the humidifier isn't running, the results are about the same. They're both sitting at high 60s to low 70s, but whenever the humidifier is running, the bottom shelf barely gets any of that humidity. The shelves aren't completely sealed to where air can't flow in between the two. However, I thought that more humidity would go into the bottom shelf as well, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It sits about 10 or 15% lower than my top shelf, which is unfortunate. So I have decided to switch some plants around, and I put the most loving humidity plants up on the top shelf, and the ones that like humidity but can tolerate lower humidity, I put them on the bottom shelf. So for my last and final con, it would be definitely the bottom piece of the cabinet, which is such a pain to deal with, because this is important because if you want to run grow lights or a fan or a humidifier or anything that has a wire attachment, you have to then drill a hole in the bottom of the cabinet. Plant Life with Ashley, she made it look so simple and easy whenever she was putting together her cabinet, and she got the shorter version, which still looked really, really good, but she did the exact same thing that I did, but she had no problems. I had every problem in the book trying to drill my hole in the bottom of this. Now, it could totally be because I had my cabinet completely assembled and was then like, okay, let's go ahead and drill the hole. So I would totally recommend drilling the hole before you get everything assembled and together, because the very bottom piece of the cabinet is actually 2 separate layers of metal. So if you go ahead and drill those at the beginning and get it done and out of the way, I think it would be a lot easier than having your cabinet completely assembled and having to deal with not hitting the glass and having just 2 layers to go through. It was really, really difficult. We made a really big scratch mess on the bottom, so I painted it. I tried to spray paint it, and that did not want to cover it up. And then I tried to acrylic paint it with just like paint that you would do for regular paintings and art. But that seems to do the trick for the time being. I think I might end up painting the whole entire bottom shelf so it matches and it looks a little bit the same, even though you could probably tell that there is a little bit of a difference. So that is the cons out of the way. Let's get to the pros. Let's get to the most exciting part. The pros, the pros, the pros. This cabinet is beautiful. beautiful to look at. If you are tired of your plants being stuck in a prop box and you really want to look at those more rare and uncommon plants, those plants that probably cost you a couple $100, and you're tired of just having to pick up your tote, open the box, and look at them that way, whenever you could just literally look at them like they're in a display cabinet and look at them like they are the treasure that they are to you, this is the cabinet for you. I love this. My boyfriend loves this. He's all about things looking neat and clean and not messy, and sometimes with plants it's kind of hard to do. So this was the best way for me to have my plant addiction and have my more rare and uncommon plants and expensive plants, and also have something that looks nice in the process. I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to put down anybody who loves their proc boxes, because I love proc boxes too. I just really want to be able to see my plants daily. Another big pro of this guy is that I don't know if it's just because I live in Florida. Now that could be completely different, but my humidity in this guy sits at, the lowest is in the high 60s, which I love, and so do all my philodendron, anthurium, and Hoya that I have in here. Another big pro for me is that you can accessorize and do so many things with this cabinet. It's crazy. If you're thinking about getting one of these guys, I would definitely go over to Instagram and follow the Ikea greenhouse cabinet Instagram page, because you will just be mind blown. Whenever I saw Lucia's video on this guy, I had no idea that you could accessorize it the way that you can. There's so many options, there's so many ways to customize and make it just specific for you and your plants. Now, I did talk about this being a con before with the gaps between the cabinets letting out some of the humidity. It is such an easy fix with that weather stripping. So if you're really worried about that, it's really not that big of a deal unless you get really up close and personal with it. But that doesn't bother me, and it definitely doesn't bother your plants. So even though it is a bit of a pro and a con, that con is so easily fixable, I wouldn't worry about it. Well, that's all of the pros and cons I have listed for you guys for today. I hope that if you are on the fence with this cabinet, that is help you make your decision as to whether or not you should purchase. And there are definitely pros and cons, but I 100% think that the pros outweigh the cons. I think the cons are smaller, more nitpicky than the pros. The pros just, in my perspective, from my perspective, totally outweighed the cons. And I just think that is so beautiful, so aesthetically pleasing. I think that you can't go wrong with this cabinet. But don't forget to stay tuned for a video coming soon, which will be a tour of my cabinet. I would do a tour now, but I'm still waiting for a few items to come in the mail, because I am trying to customize it a little bit more to my liking. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you are liking the content, and then give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And also let me know if you're liking the content that way. Let me know in the comments down below if you have a Milsbo or if you're thinking about getting one. I would love to know and have a chat with you down there. Well, that is going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.